Oh, what is up, everybody? How are we doing today? We have a fun Q&A. We're going to try and get through a handful of questions here. Some of them will be a little bit longer than others. Provide some value to the Q&A versus just trying to answer as many questions as I possibly can. I'm 31. I'm not horrendously young in terms of the athletic world, right? I'm young in terms of general longevity. In terms of the athletic world, no one's going to be like, oh, look at that young 31-year-old. So I'm talking about specifically towards peak performance. Your athletic longevity can go well beyond your 40s. People play for a long time. But your peak is probably, some say like 28, some say 32. There's some arguments. I think it's variable. We're all different here. The point is, I'm not young. I'm not like a 21-year-old kid in college. So one of the questions I got, and I commonly get, so I'll just address this one as the first one, is how can someone who has not been doing athletic things, who might be in the range of, say, 40 to 30, start to do some of those athletic things again? And it's really important. There's one caveat to this because not everyone's starting point is the same, specifically around injuries, because some people got out of playing because they got hurt. And if that's the case, whatever your injury is or was needs to be addressed before you do anything else, because that was like the rate limiting factor. But the biggest, I literally just talked to someone about this the other day. The biggest thing someone needs to do who hasn't been doing athletic things or wants to do athletic things is try and be consistent in doing some aspect of whatever activity you like to do, but at a manageable amount. So I ran into someone the other day. They're like, hey, I like to play pickup basketball. I can't play as much as I'd like to. Physically, if I go and play once a week, I'm really beat up for the rest of the week. What can I do? Totally fair question. And the next question you have to ask yourself, if you're that person, is, well, do you do anything else that involves jumping, cutting, sprinting, basketball-like things over the time period between those pickup games? And typically the answer is no. And if the answer is no, then you're asking yourself to be somehow prepared to play 2 hours of pickup basketball without doing anything else to prepare your body to play pickup basketball. So the very first thing is manageable amounts. Manageable is relative to you. If you've been doing nothing, 10 minutes might be enough of physical activity to create positive change in the body. Because that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to apply a stimulus to create a positive change. Stimulus being the physical activity, positive change being, hey, that physical activity didn't beat me up too much. So, relative to you. Second, it's the type of activity. You can't just lift weights and think that's going to help you on the court. And you can't just think doing basketball things is going to help you lift weights. The type of physical activity matters. So a recommendation I would have for myself if I were starting all over is maybe take the lowest demanding thing of your sport, like shooting the basketball, something you enjoy. If you're going to go play basketball, if you're going to play soccer, maybe dribbling the ball and kicking it into a goal, kind of more enjoyable things of the sport that you like. And then taking that and ramping up the intensity through that means. So I'm a basketball player, so I'll give you a basketball example. I like to go play basketball, okay? And part of the fun thing about basketball is shooting hoops. Well, if I haven't played basketball in a long time, let's say I haven't done it in like a year, when I go shoot hoops, maybe I'll just take some set shots and maybe like a one dribble jump shot and a couple of layups, 20 to 15 minutes. Nothing too demanding. I'm not sprinting anywhere. I'm not jumping as high as I can. I'm not running around playing defense. Then I'm going to take what I like, the shooting of the hoops, the dribbling and whatnot, and I'm going to ramp up that intensity. So next time I go, I might only do it for, again, 15, 20 minutes, but But maybe I'll add in some faster layups or some faster ball handling or 2 dribbles into my jump shot, moving a little bit quicker. Not going maximal speed yet, just ramping into it. The same way, if you were to go lift weights and you were to go get started lifting weights, you wouldn't go, man, I haven't lifted in a year. I think I should go max out. No, you'd work into it. So the same thing on the court. Now there are some things that you can do to help prepare your body. You can look at those physical actions that you do in the court, the jumping, the cutting, the change of direction, and you do some really low level plyometrics. Some people like jumping rope, almost like hopscotch or certain skips and bounds. I don't know, 5 to 7 minutes on the off days that you're not playing to build or maintain that physical capacity. You could also then start to lift some of your legs. So maybe you're gonna say, I'm gonna add 1 strength exercise for my legs, and I'll do that 3 times a week. Okay, very cool, something really easy to do. One time I'll do a squat, one time I'll do maybe a deadlift or a hinge, and maybe the other day I'll do a unilateral single leg exercise. Super simple. 15 minutes of total work. So now you do the 7 minutes of hopping, the 15 minutes of total work, and you're now at what, 22, 25 minutes of total exercise. Easy peasy. That is how I would start. And from there, build into it. After 1 week, that might not be enough to ramp up even further. Maybe just doing the same thing for 2 weeks is what you'll need to do. So the principle is slowly ramping the intensity. The application is knowing, oh, well, I like to do these kind of exercises, and I know these kind of exercises are more intense or less intense, the ones in my sport. So I'm going to pick the ones that are less intense first and then build into it. So I hope that makes sense. I hope that answers the question as to, how do I go from someone who hasn't been doing athletic things to something more athletic? It's not as straightforward, do these number of sets, do these number of reps. It's more of a concept and principles. What I would add is some things like isometrics. Maybe you'll hold a lunge position for 30 seconds each leg 3 times and do that every other day. That seems to mitigate a lot of the issues with tendonitis. It has an analgesic effect, so it can help apply enough of a strain to the tendon of that muscle tendon unit, say your quadriceps, to create positive adaptation in that tendon and maybe reduce the likelihood of getting some jumper's knee, as people, call it commonly, or tendonitis-like issues. Hopefully that adds a little bit of a, guidance there. As for myself, body composition, muscle mass, trying to lose muscle mass, and my pursuit of basketball. So when I took on this goal, I wanted to take this on the same way I would train an athlete. So I give myself the same advice I'd give an athlete. I have certain preferences and aesthetics I like. But the athletic version of me, while I personally like them, might not need it. One of the things is my chest. At my best, I could bench press 365 pounds, I think. I think that's right. 355 or 365. I'm not sure if I ever actually... I think I benched 365. I really wanted a 405. I was on the path to it, but I got hurt. So I almost got there. But no, I didn't almost get there. I got to 365 at least. I'm pretty sure. Whatever. Besides the point. I could do like 23 reps at 225. I think I have a video of that somewhere. Point is, I had a very strong chest. And it had some hypertrophy to it. And guess what? When you're playing basketball, you really don't need to bench 360 pounds. Strength in basketball, you don't shove people, you're not bench pressing people. A lot of it has to do with your lower body transitioning to your upper body, but also how you use your upper body to create an impact. I've played players who are much thinner than me, who play much stronger than me. I've played players who are much more muscular than me, who play much weaker than me. So I don't need the mass associated with a larger chest. It looks cool aesthetically, sure, but it's not horribly useful. To carry something you don't need, it's not necessarily needed. So this brings me to the fact that I haven't bench pressed in quite some time because I'm trying to actually lose some of the mass. Now, there is some research that if I've built hypertrophy in that area, it increases the number of myonuclei, and that's like the muscle memory of hypertrophy. So when I do try to rebuild my muscle mass in my chest, I'm not too concerned about it coming back slowly because I think it'll come back quickly, because that is something I had built up previously. So right now, while it is affecting my aesthetic enjoyment of being, having a big chest and be able to bench press a lot, for the sake of basketball, I'm not doing it. You could argue, how much weight do you actually carry there? Is it for flexibility? No, it's not for flexibility. It's the fact that it's added mass, and when you're carrying something that you don't need, I don't need it. So why would I try and carry it? Also, bench pressing, if I have enough strength there already, requires energy. Energy to perform and energy to recover from. So, do I really want to spend my time bench pressing when there is no gain or benefit from it other than the aesthetics, which obviously are cool, but maybe not super useful at the moment? And then the answer is no. Oh, because I originally started this process, I was going to keep bench pressing and stuff, but I need to treat this like I'm my athlete and me coaching myself. Be like, Max, what are you doing? Why are you trying to bench press? So yes, I'm trying to lose some of that aspect. I'm not trying to recomp in terms of like change my musculature, but you guys might have seen Tim Grover in, was it the Bulls documentary with MJ talk about how when he played baseball, he needed to be built a certain way. Played basketball, he needed to be built another way. And there is some truth to that. When I play basketball, I don't need to be built a certain way. And if I were to play football, which I don't play football, if I did play football, I would need to be built a certain way. So your sport will dictate a little bit about some of the physical demands and needs that you have for what you're trying to encounter. Now, MJ was very thin, and he had to put on muscle mass to deal with the Detroit Pistons. I am not MJ, nor was I, or am I, that thin. I probably was stronger than MJ in terms of my upper body. So I'm not horribly concerned with having to try and get that stronger. I don't think in my pursuit of becoming a professional basketball player, I'll ever be like, if I only did a couple more bench press sets, I would have gotten, whatever, so much better. I would have made a team. It's not going to be the case. In that kind of same genre of stuff, I do want to talk about the nutrition aspect. Because I get questions about this as well. And again, it's not an exact question someone asked. I get if we did a word cloud of questions, this would be one of those things people often ask. They see me eat lots of carbs. They see me consume ice cream, and hamburgers and stuff. And oh my goodness, all this junk food. The reality is I'm working out a lot. And I have to work out. I have to fuel myself, not just to work out, but to recover from the previous workout. So I worked out this morning from 8 to what time is it now? Let's say 10:30, okay? And let's say basically 2 hours, let's just say, make it easy math. Okay, I had to eat before that to get ready for the workout. I had to eat after that to replenish from the workout. I have to eat again to get ready for the next workout. Then I have to eat again to recover from that workout and eat again to get ready for the next workout. So my dinner is actually almost like a pre-workout meal for the next morning. When you're eating and having to, or training that much, you have to consume the sheer volume of calories, you can get away with some junk food. Because one of the issues you don't want is you don't want to undereat. If you undereat, you'll be underfueled. If you're underfueled, you'll underperform. I'd rather overeat and maybe gain a pound or two and be really ready to perform than undereat and be not ready to perform. It's that simple. The most acute fuel source is going to be carbohydrates stored as muscle glycogen. Right? If you can break it down in the old muscle physiology days, you have muscle glycogen that your muscles store, the fuel source. You have glycogen in the liver, and it goes in the bloodstream, becomes glucose, and your muscles use that. And when that gets used up, there's a little bit of a shift towards other resources, such as your fatty stores. But we're not here to dive into that right now. We're not going into bioenergetics. Simply want to talk about how the acute usage of glucose and muscle glycogen, acute meaning the immediate usage of it when you start to work out, that's what it's using. Well, I need immediate replenishing of it if I'm going to go back and do something again. So I like to err on the side if I have too many calories in the carbohydrate direction, especially during the day. I'd rather overeat carbohydrates than, especially during the day, than any other macronutrient, I'd argue. Protein, you could make some argument here and there. As long as I'm getting enough and I can make up for it at the end of the day, it's probably okay. It's not going to acutely, immediately affect my workout. It's not like I don't eat enough protein. I'm not going to have enough energy for my workout. Same with fats. Carbohydrates tend to be the big one. So carbohydrates and hydration and caffeine, because I love coffee, are the three big things for me. And so I'd rather overeat, in terms of the macros, carbohydrates than any of the other three. And with that in mind, I need those carbohydrates quickly, maybe in liquid form, maybe in quick energetic form. So something that's a simple carbohydrate, minimal fibers that goes into my bloodstream rapidly. There is some research that caffeine might augment, or I should say speed up, the process at which muscle glycogen is replenished. There are some debates about that. So having carbs and caffeine can be really useful, but don't forget your hydration. I take upper echelon hydrate. It's, a hydration scoop you put in. It keeps you replenished with the proper electrolytes. And so not just only having water, but hydration beyond just water itself. So that's how I look at my fueling. I don't mind eating, a protein heavy dinner, but I gotta make sure that has carbs in it still too, because I'm gonna work out the next day. I gotta be replenished. The biggest mistake I make sometimes is like I'll have a steak for dinner. I'm like, oh, that steak filled me up, and I'll forget to eat carbs. Just because that's a habit I had when I wasn't training as much. You didn't really need to be that picky, but when you're training as much as I am, you have to be a little bit more sensitive, I should say, sensitive to a mistake. And so now with the training being so often, if I eat like a steak for dinner but I don't have any carbs, I feel it the next day. So I like rice tortillas. I'll eat Rice Krispies. Oh, I know. Oh my gosh, is that junk food? Well, I need calories. So that's where I stand with my nutrition aspect. You want to get the right macronutrients. Obviously, the micronutrients are very important. Micronutrients, I heard someone say this, are often for health, and you really want your micronutrients just like you should to be healthy and happy. But the macronutrients typically dictate the fueling. There's a difference between fueling and nutrition. Nutrition on the whole encompasses your micronutrients and all that fun stuff. Your fueling, on the other hand, is more like the hydration and carbohydrate realm of things, where it's calories that you consume that can be utilized for energetic purposes as soon as they possibly can. Those are kind of the big three things I look at. I have a whole bunch of questions I did not get to. Oh, so maybe I'll do another one of these, because I don't want to have this go on too long, because I do want to talk a little bit about finding a passion for yourself. So some of you guys might have asked or seen me play pickup a lot more. I might have mentioned this in my previous video, but I'm trying to find some more joy in the game and more fun. It's been pretty stressful at times going through all this. There's been a lot of progress from the agent front. A lot of people have reached out to help, hopefully moving in the right direction there. But when you go in every day just trying to work as hard as you possibly can, you sometimes forget why you love something and why you enjoy basketball, in this case for me, in the first place. And so I felt like I've been neglecting the actual enjoyment of basketball. And so playing pickup, and some of the players, they're just out there playing, and it's a YMCA. And it's not competitive to any stretch of the imagination that people are, picking up full court. You don't have any of those kind of demands. You're not sitting there trying to get certain clips for certain whatever purposes to send to agents. You're just playing basketball with other people who like basketball. And there's something really enjoyable about that. I hope to share some clips in the future. Someone sent me a really good idea that maybe I just film the whole thing and put it on a Google Drive for anyone if they all want to use it. I thought that was pretty clever. I don't really share the pickup at the YMCA. Like, what's the benefit of it? Imagine if I dunk on somebody, cool, I get to share it on Instagram for me, and I get lots of likes and maybe views, but the person who got dunked on might not be very happy about it, and I play pickup with them. And so if they're not happy that I posted it, and then they don't want me to play pickup, I've sacrificed the enjoyment of basketball for the sake of a video that got a lot of views. Like, whatever. What's the point of that? I'm not sure why I'd want to do that. I like basketball. I want to play basketball. I want to be invited back to play basketball. I don't want to ruin a situation that I find enjoyable for the sake of posting it on social media. That's kind of how I look at it. Yeah, there's benefits and it could help me, maybe some levels of exposure, but the reality is it's not a horribly competitive game. It's not going to be a situation that, like, if it was an adult league competition where there's referees and teams and there's a social agreement that we are competing to play the best we can, then sure, if I score a bunch of points or dunk on someone there, I don't have an issue posting that because there's a level of understanding that you've engaged in a competitive form of basketball, and that's part of the basketball contract is you might get dunked on. But posting it on social media when it's like at a YMCA, I'm not sure the utility of it, only in the fact that it might not, might limit the amount of basketball I can play, and I like playing basketball, so I don't want to do that. That kind of leaves it there for today. So I'll make another one of these, maybe we'll do another half this Monday, call this part 1. There's some other good questions, and I'll put it back out there. I have some more updates with you, my training, and all that fun stuff. But I'll share that with you guys next time, and maybe some social media advice and some things to talk about there. Football's here this week. I'm pretty excited. Big college football fan. Be watching Iowa play Illinois State. Right, we're in the state of Iowa here. We like to watch the Hawkeyes. Oh, they don't score any points ever, and they're kind of boring to watch historically, but hopefully they score some points this year and at least win their first game, because they are notorious for not performing well sometimes in their first game. If you guys have favorite college football teams, let me know. I'll also be tuning in to watch the Indiana Fever. Been following Caitlin Clark, by the way, from a basketball standpoint. Very interesting what they've been doing with the Fever and how they've been playing. People don't realize how good of a passer Caitlin Clark is and also how good of a scorer Kelsey Mitchell is. It's a really interesting tandem. It's a really fun team to watch. Whatever. I don't want to drag this on too far. Those are other topics for another day. I appreciate y'all. Take care, and I hope you all enjoyed.